Tom Short, Kilmullen, Newtown and Kennedy, East Wicklow. So there was a lot of records broken. Month of March, month of October, rainfall records, and I think the East Coast would have got an overburdened share of it. We would have only sown about 45% of what our planned sowing were.
This year we're only maybe at 50% of the crops that would have been due to go in. And it's a real shame because we had a lot of break crops sown in 2023, so we had a natural kind of progression. Potentially a good bit of wheat has gone in after these break crops, but the like of your barleys and your oats, they haven't been sown. This year, given that constant rain that was falling, a lot of them in-till farmers have gone back to plough-based systems because it just was so hard to try and get that min-till fields to dry out enough in order to drill. So we've seen a lot more plough crops go in this year, switching away from min-till. But in no doubt, I know people will go back to min-till again next autumn if conditions allow. You know, I think land is so wet at the moment that we're going to need excellent drying in order to dry out that conditions. But there might be some people, maybe if they have winter wheat seed in stock, that they might go with maybe sow wheat in February, but I think it's going to be a very small proportion of the farmers in the area.
We would run a rotation with 7 different crops, and winter wheat being our prime aim always. It's the most viable. Would have moved away from plough-based system maybe 10 years ago into minimum tillage, and simply to speed up the operation and to get through the work faster. Then we went on into September, October. It just was snap and grab all the time. October came when we should have been ploughing, and we should have been re-sowing. We used mainly a minimum tillage operation, but this year we found ourselves that the only hope we had was to try and plough the ground and let the top of it dry and then sow it. We would have only sown about 45% of what our planned sowing were. All we can do is dust ourselves down, pick it up and try and maintain and get our rotation back in. It's going to put massive pressure on the spring, and it's also going to, we don't have the proper crop rotation. We have to be very, very careful. We could find ourselves with too much spring barley or too much spring beans. It will have a knock-on effect for the next number of years. When you have a lot of acres to get through, you have to have you spread the risk, because you can't be you can't harvest them all at the one time. So our harvest would start end of July, wouldn't finish until maybe 10th of September of our normal year. Do we sow spring wheat? Do we sow spring barley? There's a huge amount of decisions we have to make, and we're making them at the minute. But in reality, spring barley and spring beans are probably going to be the 2 big crops of the spring.
I think the biggest advice I can give to farmers in the area for 2024, okay, we're coming off, as I mentioned, we're coming off an autumn where we only have 50% of our crops drilled. If we get a good spring, there's a big opportunity there to get more break crops in the ground. And really we're going to look at beans as being a big part of that. But we still need to get that range of crops in the ground, because we can see from profit analysis on tillage farms that the bigger the range of crops we have, the more break crops, the better chance we can get first wheats growing. It's always going to improve profitability.
We're standing here now in a field of winter wheat that was sown after spring beans. We got 5 inches of rain within a fortnight of this being sown, and it just sealed the top of the ground and it caused terrible problems. You'll see parts of this field where there just isn't enough plants. Are we going to have to come back in and re-sow some of it? Those are decisions. Can't really make those maybe for another couple of weeks, but you know, the likes of this area we're standing now, there is no wheat left here. Do we come back in? It's a relatively small area. It's probably 5-8% of the total. It's not going to be acceptable to our department. You know, there's no crop in it, so this can't be left. I think it's a shame that we will have to come back in and try and stitch in, because it's not going to be viable. You know, you put spring barley in here, you know, and they're relatively small patches. You're doing more damage to the existing crop trying to stitch it in. But I would suggest that we would get a system where we can put in a cover crop here, a green cover crop, and let nature look after and let this soil recover for the next 12 months.